Hello, this is TK422, the Optimissed-It Stormtrooper. I recently came across this article called "The Star Wars Movies Are Secretly Forbidden from Showing These 5 Objects," and I just thought this was kind of an interesting thing to run through. Might give you some interesting information, but and there's a couple things I think the article gets wrong. But for the most part, it's a fun little thing. Without further ado, let's just go through this. In an interview with Tony Gilroy, he talks about how Lucasfilm has somebody like Pablo Hidalgo, who his job is basically to know everything that happens in Star Wars. So when they're coming up with ideas, they can go to somebody like Pablo Hidalgo and find out what they need to change. Kind of make sure they don't break things that would completely break the Star Wars universe. So mirrors is one of them. You know, I never thought about this. I can't think of a time when a mirror is being used in Star Wars. They do use The Last Jedi as an exception. However, it's not a man-made mirror. It's a kind of, natural, almost like crystal surface in this vision that Rey's having that is meant to be trippy anyways. And so having a mirror doesn't really break that, because it's trippy to have mirrors in Star Wars, but this is also not like a manufactured mirror. It's more of a natural reflection, if you will. And I think that works. I think that's, that makes sense. I can't, personally, on the top of my head, I can't think of any time a mirror was used in Star Wars. So that's actually something I did not know. Like, I know, they typically shy away from zippers, although that's, something Luke had with his jumpsuit in Empire Strikes Back, so things like that. Moving on to paper. That one kind of seems a little bit more obvious. There really isn't paper, or at least much paper, in Star Wars. They did leave out, once again, The Last Jedi has an exception with the old Jedi text. I think it works. I think it's okay in the instance of The Last Jedi because it's representing something very ancient, an ancient way of storing the knowledge. It's the old, sacred Jedi text. And also, again, it's not like factory-made paper. It's probably, hand-cut, hand-binded book. I think it works in that exception, but, I think that's paper is still a good thing for Star Wars to be like, yeah, we don't really deal with paper. It makes sense. Got everything that they can store on data digitally, or, All right. Wills. Now, I thought this article was interesting because it says The Rise of Skywalker breaks this rule, with Dio here. But here's the thing. In most cases, there are no wills in Star Wars. I think it did mention the sand crawler having, the big tank treads. Yeah, right here. But so they're completely forgetting the large turbo tanks that appear in Revenge of the Sith and then later show up again in Rogue One. So it's interesting that they're talking, to Tony Gilroy at the beginning of this article, but there are wills in Rogue One. So, it sounds like they, SlashFilm needs to consult Pablo Hidalgo before writing something like this. I'm just kidding. But I mean, no shade on them. They're writing an article, and they clearly do know quite a bit about Star Wars. They're just missing some things, right? So that's why I'm making this video. I just wanted to be like, hey, this is interesting information, but also we do have wills in a couple other examples. So knives, first thing I thought of was like Paz Vizsla's knife, his vibro knife, but I suppose that's enough of a difference to say it's not just a standard knife. But as I was reading, it did say whenever there are dining scenes in Star Wars, and there aren't many, you won't see a single knife being used. And I had to stop and pause on that one because I can think of 2 examples where utensils are being used. One, and both come from Attack of the Clones. One is when Anakin and Padme are having dinner together, or a pair. I know it's not really a pair. It looks like a pair. But then also the clones are eating, and I'm pretty sure there are knives in both of those scenes, but I could be wrong. Let's find out.
I see.
They are totally obedient, taking any order without question.
So right there you can see there's knives. They're using knives. Okay, so there you have it, another knife. Granted, I'll give him this, that the knife was shaped a little bit differently. So the next is hinges, and that seems kind of obvious. Like, yeah, there's no hinges in Star Wars. But then I started thinking about, well, what about Solo? Isn't there a moment where they walk in through, almost like those old Western doors? But then I couldn't find an example like that. So maybe this one's right. I don't know. If you can think of any times there were hinges on Star Wars, most of the doors open either up, down, left, right, or even like an iris. I don't know. I just thought this article was interesting. thought you might find it interesting as well. I don't know, you tell me, is there anything else that was missed here, or anything that they got wrong or I got wrong? Now go ahead and leave a comment. I'd love to read it. All right, thanks for watching. TK422, the Optimist-It Stormtrooper, out.